Welcome to this training module on cloud identity and provisioning for Cloudera Data Platform on Azure. We will explore how CDP integrates with Azure Active Directory and infrastructure to securely provision and manage resources. Let's get started. First, let's establish what a CDP environment is within the Azure ecosystem. Logically, a CDP environment maps one-to-one with an Azure Virtual Network, or VNet, contained within a resource group. This setup provides a secure network boundary where the Cloudera control plane allows you to provision compute resources, such as data lakes and data hubs, directly into your Azure subscription. Crucially, CDP leverages Azure native security constructs, specifically user-assigned managed identities, to handle authentication and authorization without managing long-lived access keys. This diagram visualizes the hierarchy. At the top, the Cloudera control plane orchestrates actions. It connects to your Azure subscription, specifically targeting a resource group. Inside that group lies the VNet, which is the container for all CDP resources like virtual machines and load balancers. This structure ensures all data and compute remain within your governed Azure account. How does Cloudera gain permission to build this infrastructure? It uses an Azure App Registration, also known as a service principal. You must create this application in Azure AD and assign it specific roles at the subscription level. While contributor is common for proofs of concept, production environments often use a custom role with scoped permissions to adhere to least privilege principles. In the CDP console, this app registration is configured as the credential, authorizing the control plane to spin up VMs, attach disks, and configure networking on your behalf. Here is the authentication flow. The Cloudera control plane sends the app ID and client secret, or certificate, to Azure Active Directory. Azure AD validates these credentials and returns an access token. Cloudera then uses this token to issue commands to your Azure subscription, such as create VM or create storage account, which the subscription executes if the role assignments are correct. Once the environment is running, how do the clusters themselves access Azure? We use user-assigned managed identities. There are 3 critical identities you must pre-create. First is the Sumer identity, which has a unique role allowing it to assign other identities to virtual machines dynamically. Second is the data access identity, used by the ID broker and Ranger RAZ services to access your actual business data in ADLs. Finally, logger identity allows the cluster nodes to push audit and service logs to your designated storage container. This flow shows how identities are applied. The provisioner utilizes the assumer identity to attach identities to the VM node. Once the VM is running, it uses the data access identity to interact with your ADLs data container. Simultaneously, it uses the logger identity to ship logs to the ADLs logs container. This separation of duties ensures that a logging process cannot read sensitive business data. For storage, CDP relies on ADLs Gen 2. It is mandatory to enable hierarchical namespace on the storage account to support directory structures. You typically create 3 distinct containers, one for data, one for logs, and one for backups. Security is handled via Azure RBAC. You must assign the storage blob data owner or contributor roles to your managed identities on these specific containers. This ensures that the data access identity has full control over the data container, while the logger identity is restricted to the logs container. Visualizing the storage layout, the storage account is at the top with hierarchical namespace enabled. It splits into 3 containers: data, logs, and backup. The arrows indicate the permission mapping. The data access ID is granted owner rights on the data container, while the logger ID is granted contributor rights on the logs container, enforcing strict access boundaries. Now we bring it all together by registering the environment. In the CDP console, you select your Azure credential and region. You then map the network resources, selecting your VNet and subnets and optionally linking pre-created network security groups. Crucially, this is where you input the resource ID of the managed identities. We discussed mapping the logger identity for telemetry and the data access identity for the ID broker. This configuration tells Cloudera exactly which identities to use for which cluster operations. The registration wizard follows this path. You start by selecting the Azure credential. Next, you configure the region and VNet topology. Then comes the critical step highlighted in orange, mapping identities, where you assign the specific Azure managed identities. Finally, you configure the storage containers, resulting in a fully provisioned CDP environment. A key concept in CDP is the ID broker. It acts as a bridge between CDP users and Azure identities. Instead of giving developers direct Azure credentials, you define mappings in the control plane. For example, you can map the CDP group data scientists to a specific Azure managed identity that has read-only access to sensitive data. When a user runs a job, ID broker exchanges their internal authentication for a temporary token for that specific Azure identity. This ensures users never touch the underlying cloud credentials. In this sequence, a user job needs to read data. It requests access from the ID broker using its internal CDP credentials. The ID broker looks up the mapping, Contacts Azure AD to exchange credentials for a temporary access token representing the mapped managed identity. It hands this token back to the user job, which then accesses ADL's data directly. The user never sees the long-term identity credentials. To summarize, successful identity and provisioning on Azure relies on 4 pillars. First, ensure your app registration credential has only the necessary permissions. Second, strictly isolate your runtime identities assumer, data access, and logger to prevent privilege escalation. Third, configure ADL's Gen 2 with hierarchical namespaces and precise RBAC assignments. Finally, master the ID broker mappings to provide seamless, secure data access to your end users without compromising cloud credentials. We conclude with the security pillars. The central concept branches into 4 requirements: establishing a least privilege credential, ensuring identity isolation between services, enforcing storage RBAC on containers, and utilizing ID broker mappings for user access. Getting these right ensures a secure and robust CDP deployment on Azure.
Welcome to quicktechie.com. So just type in quicktechie.com here. Then you can go through the material which is provided by quicktechie. So we have first of all video courses which you can go here and you can find the various video courses across the technologies as well as finance domain. So if you see in Microsoft, we have 8 programs currently running. Next, you can go through the ebooks available. So all the ebooks which are in PDF format today, and you can download this. So let me go through Microsoft certification ebooks. You can click on any of this and you can see this is the PDF available for you to download. So these are the premium ebook mostly available on quicktechie.com platform only. Now the second part is exam simulator. As we primarily focus on the all technology companies and finance domain certification preparation material, so this is company wide listed here and you can go through this. So let me go through the Microsoft one again. You can see this is all Microsoft related certification. AB 730 exam, if you open it, so you can see here this, and all the practice papers are available here. Today we have a 5 practice paper. So click on the first practice paper, it would load the questions. You can answer this question. This is way you can answer it and you can move to the next question. Now third material we wanted to highlight is an audiobook. So we started recently with the audiobooks as well, which you can listen on the go, and various technology wise ebooks are available. And at the last, this is our alumni. These people who are subscribing to our courses and this platform, they are all listed here. And at the end, I wanted to tell you, if you find any course or training or certification preparation material which you want to get us prepare for yourself, please put on the comment section. If you're watching on YouTube, on Udemy, or on this platform itself, quicktechie.com, then please put the comment, or you can even send an email to using this contact us options here. You can directly do the WhatsApp message. You can call us on this numbers as well.